Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Dynamics GP coffee break using an enabling document attach. My name is Katie, and I'm the facilitator today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question area in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll answer questions at the end. This session will be recorded and posted on our blog, as well as shared with you later this week. Now, I would like to introduce our presenter today, Don Nolte, who is a solutions architect at Encore. Don, I'll pass it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for attending. So today we're going to talk a little bit about using an enabling document attach. So what is document attach and what do we need to do with it? So we're going to go through some setup on how you actually turn it on, in case it isn't turned on your system. It's a very easy process. Where the default locations are so that it makes it easier to find your documents when you want to attach them to different documents. How is it stored? Of course, and then how do we add and delete document? Okay. After that, we're going to talk a little bit about flow of documents and where does the document reside and can it flow with documents such as sales orders from a sales order onto a sales invoice so that you can email it out to the customer. And then how do we then attach those to the emails as we send them out of GP? So pretty basic stuff. Yeah, I'll be dealing mostly with accounts payable and a little bit about sales order processing. Okay. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm just going to go right into the demo. So hang on one second while I flip my screen over. We are there. So what we have here is GP. So this is just standard Great Plains, and where we turn this document attach on is underneath your system, underneath administration setup, and underneath company, you'll find a button called document attach. When you click on it, you got a number of options. We're going to go through these options now. So first one is, do I allow or not allow? By hitting this allow button, we get a additional button on the top of each of our orders. So if I go into purchasing, for instance, and I bring up my transaction entry, this button here called attach, if this is not checked, this will not be there. So because this is checked, this is on, so I've turned it on already inside here. The default location, this is where you can select where you wish to look first for the document to attach. You can look anywhere on your drives, anywhere on your servers, anywhere on your local machines. You can even use a scanner, but this is where it's going to default to look for it. Do I delete the file from the default location after the attachment? A lot of my clients will say yes to this, so that what they do is they put in copies of their invoices into here, and then as they attach them into the documents inside Great Plains, what they do is it automatically removes them from the document attached default folder so that they're not in the way the next time, so you don't have to keep looking through hundreds and hundreds of documents, only the ones that are unassigned. Maximum size, I've put in the maximum size there. This is how big it is. Do I allow attachments to be deleted? If I say yes to this, I can enable a password to stop people from doing it by accident. And do I allow attachments to be added in an inquiry window? And I said yes. This allows me to add documents after posting. Okay, so inquiry windows get me access to the document, but after the fact. So I can attach more documents to an invoice. So for instance, if I've got an invoice, but I forget to attach it, I can go back after I post it and attach it later. There's also flow. Can I flow things from customers? Do I flow things from items and from vendors? And for time and expense, I do not have my project accounting turned on here. So that's why that's not there. And then at the very bottom, there's a very important toggle light down here, which says, do I want to send any of these attachments by email? If you intend on sending a copy of a mill certificate or something like that to a sales order processing document, you need to have this turned on so that you can attach these documents to the invoice and then have them go with the email. So you got a copy of the invoice plus a copy of the mill cert or whatever else, terms and conditions or whatever you want to call, whatever you've done. Once we click OK on that, we're now ready to go. So at this point, I have an attach, and you'll notice this attach just looks like a paper clip. So as I go through here and I just enter in a regular one here, I'm just going to go doc attach. We got to give it a batch. Now you have to give it a batch because I can't attach a document. I can't attach a document to an unsaved document. It will only allow you to do so after it's been saved. So I'm going to hit the batch. And when I go into here, I'm going to hit Ace Travel. And my document number is 123. We'll just put some numbers in there. And I'm going to put in $1,000. Now, underneath your distributions, nothing's changed here. We're okay on this one here. It's ready to go at this point here. When I hit the attach button at this point, it's going to say, do I want to save the document? Had I not put a batch in, it would have told me that I can't save the document without a batch. So I hit save, and it brings up a new screen, the document attach management. Inside here, we have 3 buttons. Preview, which allows me to preview anything I've already attached to the document, which I'll do in a second. Scan. I do not have a scanner on my VM, on my virtual machine, so therefore I do not see the scan. But if you have a TWAIN compliant scanner attached to your workstation, this would be available, and you can hit the scan button and then insert the document into the scanner, and it would scan it through and add it to GP. I'm going to use the attach, and it goes to Dynamics Document Attach as expected. There it is there. And you'll see here I've got a number of PDFs, I've got some XLS sheets and things like that. I'm just going to grab this invoice right here. I'm going to grab this and we're going to put it in here. So at this point here, if I wanted to see this, I could highlight it and I could hit preview. When I hit preview, it will open up the document. I had my car detailed the other day, and this is the invoice from Shiny Platform. So here is an invoice that came through. I can view it online. I can do whatever I need. This is now attached. And when it's attached inside the SQL Server. So when I do a backup of the SQL Server at the end of the day, I back up all my documents as well, which is why you do not need to keep them on your network drives. So then from here, I have a couple of questions over here. I have allow document flow. Does this flow to another document? Now I don't have that checked, and it doesn't allow me on this one because this particular document doesn't flow anywhere. But a sales order would flow to a sales invoice, or a quote would flow to an order which flows to an invoice. You'd need to have this checked so that this PDF would then go with it as we move through. The next thing is do I wish to attach it in an email? If I hit the arrow key here, the attachment properties, there are some attributes that I can add inside here. So I can add additional attributes and descriptions if I wanted to be able to search my documents a little more in more detail. I'm going to leave that there. When I go OK on this, you'll notice that my paperclip has changed to a piece of paper and a paperclip, and the piece of paper indicates that there is a document attached. So when you're looking at a screen, you can tell by looking at this top bar as to whether or not a document has been attached to that document or not. It doesn't tell you how many, but it does tell you that there's one there, okay? So once I've done this, I can then hit post, or I can hit save. And I'm going to hit save at this point here, and I'm going to close this from that point of view. So that's how I would put it on there. If I was to go to sales, for instance, you'll notice that when I go to my sales transaction entry, I have an order. I'll pick Aaron Fitz. And my batch is going to be document attach, which I have already done. I'm going to put it into the north site, and I'm going to order some 2-ear headsets. Oops. And I'm going to order 2 of those at $200, like so. There it is there. Again, when I hit the attach here, it asks me to save the document because I can only attach it to a saved document. I hit save, and now I go into here and I can hit attach, and I can attach that same invoice again. We know what it looks like, so we don't have to look at it again, but there it is there. Now I've attached it to another document as well. So you can attach the same document to multiple places. Obviously, had I deleted it originally on the way in, it would not be there. Over here, you'll see that I've got flow. I can allow documents to flow, and that is because this is an order. This order will move to an invoice, and I might want it to flow. I also may want to include this as a copy backup for my invoice. And that's what this email button inside here is. And you can just turn them on and turn them off inside here. Okay, and then we go like so. And I can unattach it and I can make it flow or not flow. So I can make the changes here, and that will change these toggle boxes here. So we go close and we go okay. So now if I wanted to send this and I wanted to email it, what would happen is I'd need to go into here and I can select the attachments in the email. So when I select an attachment, it gives me a list of all the attachments. So I say, I want to include this one. So now if I was to email this, it would go out with 2 documents, one document for a copy of the invoice and one document, which is my shiny my shiny invoice that I received as backup for this 2-year. Now, why it's a backup for the 2-year, that's a good question, but that would be what the email would do. I do not currently have email attached to my demo system because I do not have an Exchange server anywhere near me. So I keep it separate. So, but that's what would happen. So when I hit the email, it would then send out multiple pieces. So you can have mill certs in there. You can have packing slips in there. You can have anything that you would like to put in there. Terms and conditions are the most common ones. TOCs and like a mill cert or some sort of purity certificate or something like that, if depending on what you're selling, may be required for each item that is there. So there it is there. So that's how you would actually send that particular piece through there. Now, so we're gonna hit save. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to purchasing and I'm going to go to inquiry. We're going to go transactions by inquiry. We're going to go to Ace Travel and we're going to open up this one here. I'm going to click on the document number and you'll see the attach button is there. This attachment has not got one right now, so I can now go into here and I can attach it. And I can go okay, and now it's attached, even though this invoice was already fully posted prior to me being here today. So that was fully posted. If I wish to, once I go okay, and I close this, if I go back to that and go, oh, well, that document doesn't belong there, I can go into here and I should be able to delete the row, like so. Now, when I go to delete the row, it will have moved it from active to deleted. So it stores that record inside the SQL database until such time as you purge it out of the system. Now, the version that I'm using right now is 18.5. And in 18.5, in order to purge out all of these documents that were in the deleted status, you had to run a SQL script in the background. The newest version, the one that came out in October early this year, allows you to purge it directly from inside Great Plains. So that's one of the new features inside 18.6. Okay, so from here, I can now go through all of these different places and I can add any documents that I may have missed, and I can change or move the documents around accordingly. I can delete it. Now, when I delete it out of GP or delete it from the document, that deleted document does not go back to the default. It does not take it out of SQL and put it into the location. Okay, once it comes out of SQL, it goes into the trash can. So you have to make sure you do have a copy someplace else before you would delete it completely, in case it's the only copy you've got, depending on how you've maintained your historical files. But it is good that everything is in there. You can attach on almost all fields and all transactions. So if I go into a general ledger transaction, just a regular general GL entry, you'll notice that the attach is up at the top right there. There's the attach. I can attach. It will only attach once the document has been saved, same as all the other documents. We can add as many or as few as we want. Now, the other thing that the document attach does is that it changes the way that your notes work. So when I'm inside a document like a purchase order, and I've got some information that I don't want to send to the vendor, I don't want it attached as an attachment here, but I do want to keep it as a note to tell me why I made this order to begin with. And let me bring up an existing one, 80. There we are there, Ace Travel, there's a 40 of those. when I click on these buttons here, I also have I have a paperclip down at the bottom. So all these note fields, and these note fields are, I've got one here, I've got one by the buyer, I have one on the site, I have one on the item. I can go into here and I have that same document attachment manager attached to there. And I can again go the attach, it'll take me to the main place. And I could put a Excel spreadsheet, for instance, that says, oh, well, I need to put an Excel spreadsheet inside here, and I can open up an Excel spreadsheet. You can put in any kind of document that you wish. You can put in Excel, you can put in Word, you can put in PDFs. You can also put in AutoCAD documents against your bills and materials and things like that. The caveat to it is that if you hit the preview button, the workstation that you're working on must have a reader for that type of file. So for me to have XLSX, when I hit preview, it's going to open up Excel, okay? And it's going to bring in Excel. That's a fairly large file, so we'll just wait for a second while it pops that up. If it's a PDF writer is the one that is what it does. And obviously, if it's an AutoCAD document, you must have an AutoCAD reader on that workstation. So then it would open up Excel from there. I think it's already open in the background. So from here, so that would give you that. Then it will also open up Microsoft Word or whatever it happens to be. So don't save. There we go. Just exit out of there. So the idea is that no matter what you put in here, you can put in a Word document, you can put in a budgetary XLX saying this is where we got the pricing from. These are notes about the purchase order that you don't want to send to the vendor. These are for your internal purposes only. So that's another reason for using document attach. We found document attach very useful. Now there's a couple of caveats that you have to be aware of. First off, as you begin to add all these documents into your SQL database, you're going to grow your SQL database. So when I hit the attach button here and I click on attach and brings up this, you'll see that these are 65K. So you're adding 65 kilobytes of space into your blob storage inside SQL. So if I added 1,000 units, I'd have 65 megs. So if I do 1,000 invoices a month, that's 10,000 a year. All of a sudden, we're now looking at a gigabyte of space. That's not a huge amount of space, but it is something that you have to talk to your IT department to make sure that they're aware that you're going to start growing your database significantly quicker than you have been in the past. Not that that's a bad thing. Disk space is relatively cheap, and you can extend most disks as long as people know about it. So we can go open, go to, like so, and you can add as many as you would like to do inside here. Okay, and then we go okay, and then that's now got a paperclip with a piece of paper saying that there's something there. When I click attach on this, you'll see that it's got a yellow. It's gone yellow here to tell you that there is actually something underneath for you to look at. And this is true for even if you were to just, it says document attached. I could type in see attached Excel for pricing. So now when I go into here, it goes, oh, okay, if I want to see the pricing, I can go to the attachment, I can go into here, and then I can open up my pricing inside here. So there we are there. Okay. Now, I know we said we were going to be at 25 minutes, but I'm pretty much, I think, let me just double check. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it up and ask if anyone has any questions. So do we have any questions at this point?
There is one here, Don. So
Okay.
does document attach require a lot more storage space on the GP SQL server?
It can, and depends on what you're attaching and how big the files are. If you're just putting scans of PDFs, they run somewhere about 50 to 75K. So if depending on how, you'd have to say how many documents do I do a year, multiply that by 75K, and that's how much disk space you would be using. It actually does some compression as it puts it in, so it's not quite as big as the full file. But I say to people, that's kind of a good indication of how much disk space you're going to use. You should go and talk to your IT people to make sure that they're aware that you're going to grow your database. So it's a good question, and yes, it does do that because it does put it into the SQL database, which means it increases the amount of disk space for the storage, increases the amount of disk space for your backups, and potentially increases your bandwidth required in order to save the backup to the cloud, depending on how you're doing your backups. So it is a piece, but in most people's cases, they already have files for this. In other words, you're storing the copies of these files because you're not printing them out and putting them in a file cabinet. You're storing them somewhere on your drives. And then when somebody asks you for a copy of the invoice, you then go back and you say, okay, well, this is from Ace Travel, so therefore it should be in my vendor/Ace Travel folder. And which one of these PDFs is it? So you go through that procedure in order to get that particular document. If you were to move that document and attach it into Great Plains, then it would be there for you at the tip of your fingers. You just have to hit the button and it would automatically be there. You wouldn't have to do that search criteria, which is the good news about it. It does do that. And these document attaches can also be used with workflow. So when you send the workflow documents around, when I take my transaction entry and I send it for workflow for approval, you can send a copy of the invoice with it. So when I send out a document for Ace Travel saying, here's a list of the travel and here's the copy of the tickets to Australia or wherever you happen to be going, then you would submit that. The approver would get a copy of it saying, oh, what's Don spending the $1,000 on? He would have a copy of the invoice. He'd be able to open the invoice, go, oh, yes, that's right, I did approve that to him the other day, and then he would be able to approve that document. Same on a purchase order. You could put in the specifications of the piece of equipment that you're purchasing. It would go to the approver. The approver would look at those specifications in the Excel document, go, yes, this is correct. No problem, I can approve this electronically, and then it would come back and be ready to be ordered. So we can use the document attach as a big part of the workflow, because otherwise when you send a document by workflow, you send a document that says Ace Travel invoice 123 for $1,000. The person who's approving is going to go, well, what's it for? And is it an actual invoice? Those are the two questions. I mean, if I was a controller, I'd ask those questions. So I have to look at that. And so we need to send that document with it so that the controller or the CEO can see what they're approving before they approve it. So that would then allow you to do that. And I believe our next, yes, we're using, in November, we'll be covering that workflow, and I'll be using document attach as part of that. I'll be putting a transaction through with transaction entry and sending it for approval, and included in that approval will be a copy of the invoice. Probably that same shiny invoice. I like to use it because it's an easy one to show. So, any other questions?
There are a few more. Somebody's
Okay.
asking, does this work for journal entries as well?
Yes, it does. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, so when we look at this, when you go into financial and you go into transactions, it's right, it's underneath here, it's under attach. It needs to be a little wider. They didn't make it wide enough on this particular screen, but if I make the screen, it's hidden underneath the double arrows, but it is definitely there. You do have to put it in a batch. Like so, and then if I go like this and go attach, do you want to save? Yes, I have to save it. yes, I want to save the unbalanced entry, and then it comes up with that same screen, and I can attach whatever I need to attach. And so you can attach it there, and then it's an attachment at the top here. And you can also attach it as a note. So you can put in big notes, especially things like, so if you're doing a journal entry for a lease, for a new lease that somebody bought a new car, you had to release a new car, you want a copy of the lease document attached, you can attach a copy of the lease document, the bill of sale, the insurance papers, or whatever else that you need to do. So, okay. Anything else?
There's one more. So
Yep.
does it allow Outlook attachments such as an email?
As long as you can get it into a file inside a folder, you can use it. The question is whether or not you could read it. In other words, when you open it, you should be able to. I haven't tried an Outlook from there. If you saved it as a, I'm not sure what kind of file structure it would save as. That would be. It's a good question. I can find out for you, and I'll let Katie know, and she can put it in the blog saying whether or not we can do that. But I'm not sure that once I got it out as a file, it would be a readable file inside here. So when I'm underneath my attach here, the file name that would sit here, if I go in transit here, like this is an XML inside here. And if I click this and go preview, right, it's going to say, well, what do you want to open it with? So I'm not sure what would happen if I put in whatever the file type is that you would save. That would be the question. Be worth trying. It's whether or not you can open the file. As you can see here, I can't open this. I don't have a default application for XML, but it's going, well, Windows says these three will work. I could open it in Notepad and go, okay, and there's my XML file. So, I mean, it as long as it's something that I could open and have have a reader attached, it would be fine. I've had this problem with people who put AutoCAD documents in there. Their manufacturing guys put AutoCAD documents in. The salespeople went to look at it, and they can't read it because they haven't got an AutoCAD reader. So, okay. Any others?
I don't see any more questions that have come in. As Don had mentioned earlier, we do have a few upcoming Dynamics GP Coffee Break webinars scheduled. I will add the link to our events page to the chat if you'd like to register for those sessions. I will also add a link where you can set your email preferences and opt into our monthly and quarterly emails so that you can stay in the know about upcoming events and see our latest blog articles. Here. So those are both in the chat now. So thank you, Don, for the information, and thank you everyone for joining us today. You have a good rest of your day.
Thank you very much, everyone.